Welcome to VGL 2v2 Season 2. We're doing some more Week 2 action here with two teams very hungry for victory. First we have Crump and Satch, of course, having a very sloppy play in Week 1, looking for a Week 2 victory here, versus another winless team so far, Ari and Diener. They are, of course, Team Haterade, and they are, definitely showing some promise, but still looking for that first victory. So one thing's guaranteed: one of these two teams walking away with a victory. Which one it will be, we don't know. How sloppy or clean it will be, we don't know. But definitely one of these two teams. Now, Crump and Satch, of course, on Team DroppingLoads. This is a team that is comprised of basically two of the greatest sidekicks in VGL history. We have seen both Crump and Satch make it to semifinals and finals, and an attempt to take the crown only to fall just an inch short, and apparently their teammates felt that they were that inch. So they have wound up free agents, and they decided to basically buddy up here and prove that they are not just sidekicks, that they are not just an extra pair of hands, that they actually are very skilled players, and their skill is definitely not in question. Whether or not they can team together is the question, because for the first time ever, one of them is going to have to play as quarterback and not be the the secondary. So meanwhile, over here on the Diener and Ari side, Team Haterade is comprised of two players that have been a little rusty lately. Diener coming off a very long hiatus, Ari coming off of arguably an even longer hiatus. And they're kind of looking for a victory. They got a little bit of taste of blood in Week 1, where they were able to steal one win away from Team Flawless, kind of making them eat their team name. But they have not been able to pull away a victory. But it's still very early, so we'll have to see what happens here. We see Ari going down for an early expansion, some scouting going out with these overlords, but it doesn't look like anyone has found anybody yet. Let's take a look here. Now we've got Satch's overlord just kind of hanging out here, and if you take a look, Vision on the other side, equally blind. So these two teams definitely living up to their Week 1 reputation so far, unable to find each other. You see Crump put in a proxy pylon out here. Looks like he's going to get that expansion underway fairly soon. We see cybernetics core and a single gateway down. We do have gas for Satch as well. Take a look at production. You'll see that metabolic boost on the way. So it looks like we will have some speedlings. Meanwhile, on the Ari side, the other Zerg, we do not see an early pull from him. Really just kind of relying on Diener here. Diener, of course, being very strong for a guy who's so rusty. He definitely is showing that he still has what it takes. And here we see two Lings out on the prowl for Satch. He, of course, is equipped with the foreskin Lings. They are running around. Looks like they will find two of Diener's zealots here. That's not going to go well. Team Haterade, of course, able to repel this fairly quickly, shredding, just circumcising that Zergling. And you see Ari with two of his own Zerglings also running out here. So obviously, Team DroppingLoads a little bit of an advantage. They are aware now of this base. They know what side they're on. And we see two Zerglings going to double down on the Zelnaga. Yep, looks like they will. They will take that center, but still some good pathways here. We still have some foreskin hanging out on this southern base here that's connecting their two areas here. So what we'll probably see is expansions kind of heading to these northern bases where it'll be a little bit safer. The two Zergs, of course, having a speed advantage, can very easily kind of harass on those, try to hopefully prevent each other from expanding, make it very competitive. We see a very walled-in approach here to Satch's very cramped space in here. This larva, as it starts to build up with some bigger units, it could potentially cause some traffic jams there. So very little minor details, but stuff to still pay attention to. Meanwhile, it looks like Diener and Ari, Team Haterade, paying a little bit of a visit here. We do see one of the greatest additions to the Protoss army here, the Mothership Core, just kind of taking that early game advantage away from pretty much everybody except for Terran, and just chasing these guys away here. Team Haterade, of course, going to have to pull back. We see quite a few Zerglings here with speed. And if we take a look at this unit tab, we'll see Satch only 5 roaches here, going for a little bit more of a tier 1.5 build there. We just have a single Stalker and Mothership Core for Crump. So even though that Mothership Core was a little scary, I feel like if they had attacked the mineral lines, they could have done something about it. Meanwhile, Ari's Overlord finds itself in the wrong neighborhood, tries to escape, but unfortunately, no matter how much Blizzard has speed buffed this, it is still really slow. And the Queen easily taking care of that. Meanwhile, we see Ari creeping in here with his Zerglings, going to go for the expansion denial, easy pickings for a pack of Chihuahuas like that. He looks like he will try to take out these pylons as well. At least one of them. Have that single Stalker and Mothership Core coming over here, but it's still enough to chase him away. And you see that pack of Zerglings just kind of back off. Meanwhile, you see an expansion coming down here for Diener as well. And it looks like they are going to go ahead and continue expanding up that path. They've already denied one expansion. You see Ari sending a Zergling out. Ari's so good at the scouting. Week 1, even though it was a pretty horrific game for them, you still saw like some really good scouting on Ari's behalf. And you have another Zergling over here just kind of keeping an eye on these expansions, making sure that no one's expanding without them being aware of it. You know, this is just some clever play here. These Zerglings just stationed right off the side, one up in front, keeping an eye on this expansion. We see Satch taking some air superiority over here, making sure he's not going to get dropped by anything. Probably not so much a risk on the Zerg, but for the Protoss side, of course, you never know. And we do see some Stargates going down, so this, of course, going to be probably some Phoenix play, if I had to guess. Maybe some Void Ray, we don't know yet. We'll have to see how rusty Diener is. Depends on what he builds. If he goes for a Void Ray Rush, then you know that's some Wings of Liberty seeking through here a little bit. And Diener's expansion fully underway. It's so pretty when Protoss expands. It's like a constellation of stars as they warp in all these buildings. Meanwhile, a pack of Lings running around, going to deny yet another expansion. Ari being so good with those. Unfortunately, Satch has been able to accrue quite a bit of Roaches here, as well as some Zealots and Sentries from Crump, and that's still that Lone Stalker and Mothership Core. And this pack of Lings a little bit thinner, going to back off now. These Roaches, of course, you know how I feel about the physics here, but that's okay. They've blocked off this ramp, going to make this much more defensible now. It looks like Satch going down for an expansion. Crump starting to get that expansion up. Both expansions, though, very late. We take a look at income here, and you'll see that Team Haterade really starting to pull away on the resources. That is not a good sign. And you see Diener's base fully operational here, and yet a third going down for Ari. And there they are. They're the Phoenixes, so it looks like somebody was watching a little bit of cast in his off time, and he has been able to adapt. So we do see these Phoenixes. These Phoenixes, of course, some prime targets here. You've got 4 Overlords hanging out over here, and looks like a few more over here could very easily pick off at least these here in the center. Some Spores over at the main, but definitely pick off these 4. That's quite a bit of supply he could deny there, especially being so Roach heavy. That's really going to hurt Satch. You see him barely holding on with his supply, only 4 to spare. So could very easily do that. I see the foreskin is finally metabolized into some very sexy wings there. Glad to see it. And we see some poking there from on the minimap, and it looks like we will have a pack of Mutas as well as these Phoenixes roll in here. Of course, these very upgraded Spore Crawlers going to tear those Mutalisks to pieces. Only 4 survive. These Phoenixes a little bit tougher. And you see them floating around looking for easy targets, and they're going to try to pick off this Overlord. That takes him down to 2. He really should just come around and pick these off here. We do see quite a bit of Protoss Stalkers now starting to form here. That's going to be a good counter for these Phoenixes. Meanwhile, these Mutas picking off yet another Overlord, just kind of picking off Satch's supply. We see Satch now in the negative by quite a bit there. It's going to need to build at least 2 Overlords just to break even. So that was semi-successful. The Mute is probably a little bit of an expensive loss, but you do see they're going to take advantage of these Roaches' inability to defend, force Crump to do all the anti-air defending, and they're just sitting here attacking, this very empty base. And meanwhile, these Phoenixes still flying around. A very late response here from Crump, but finally picking them off. Thankfully, that hatchery is not too badly damaged. Satch, though, really needs to get this operational. It's going to be a lot trickier now with so much air. Phoenixes love to pick on bases that are just starting to drone up. It's going to make it very challenging for Satch now to try and expand this base. He's going to have to pretty much go defensive first. And with Crump as the only mobile anti-air army, it puts a lot of stress on Crump. He really has to, march his army around everywhere. He can't defend all bases at all times. His own expansion a little bit vulnerable here and from the back. and it's not even fully saturated. So these guys aren't even operating off of a full complement of drones on these expansions. And if we take a look at that income, you'll see that it's just, I mean, we have Crump just sort of barely keeping up just a little bit here, but Satch really falling behind. And yet another pack of Lings here. Another ping on the mini-map there. It looks like we will have, looks like they're going to be checking out for any possible expansions here. We do have Satch with a few Lings all over the map. Those will be easy to pick off. Do see quite a bit of movement here as I guess a probe maybe bringing a peace offering there. Looks like another one with a peace offering. Looks like maybe some emissaries looking for some allies. A little bit of motion control here, a little map control. We see another expansion going down for Crump. This is going to be very difficult for him to keep with these roving Lings. If Ari keeps this up and he keeps roaming around pinging all these different bases, he's going to make it very difficult for Crump to get a third base. And we do see some harassment here from the Mutas. They've taken a little too long to get here. There isn't too many of them, so they will probably pick off this queen, but definitely not going to pick off all these stalkers. So once again, Crump still tasked with dealing with all these air motions. I mean, just not too much. Satch with 2 corruptors on the field, but not really going to be enough right now with the potential air force that could be building up here. If we take a look at this units tab, you'll see that it really isn't too much on the Diener side. He's pretty much got 2 Void Rays and 5 Phoenixes, just slowly building up an army. You see mostly Lings on Ari's front of the side of the team. You see him shredding through this base, which is exactly what I was hoping he was going to do with those Lings. He's got to keep them mobile if he wants to keep them useful. And you see a little bit of fear for DTs, so we do see these Overseers running around. But with 59 Lings on the field, only 2 Mutas, he's pretty much just keeping it heavy here. He must be floating a ton of minerals. And at any point, he can convert that. He could be teching up, and at any point, just convert that to a ton of Ultralists or any other kind of unit. Really, the versatility's on his side with so many minerals, but floating that many minerals probably not a good idea. He wouldn't be able to build units too quickly if he was in a pinch, so it could be a little bit dangerous as well. You see Diener's Stargate just in full motion here. These guys are looking very healthy. Look, yet another expansion up here for Diener. This is looking very, very healthy for Team Haterade right now. They're really starting to outpace, drastically outpacing here. We do see 2 DTs on the field here. Crump, of course, going to try to take advantage of one of the Protoss's many advantages over Zerg, especially with detection purposes, and he's going to be able to see them live, slice away at that, but unfortunately not going to be enough. And finally, some reinforcements roll in and finish off those DTs, but the whole base was lost, and this is a bit of an over-exaggerated response here. Ari never wants to be outdone, spending money like crazy, just building a ton of Overseers, but at least now he has them. So the next time DTs try to pick on anything, he was able to save all these drones, so as soon as this base is operational, he'll be able to resume mining fairly quickly, minimizing his loss. And look at all these carriers. This is just unbelievable. I mean, the game is pretty much over here. This is going to be a shock and awe invasion where as soon as they see these carriers hit with this enormous pack of Lings, it's pretty much going to be it. You see quite a bit of Zealots here with very glowy blades, and it's a nice army. The Corruptors are a nice touch. They'll definitely at least hope to pick off a few carriers, but at this rate, it's going to look very bad for them. If we take a look at this units tab, you'll see staggering in favor of Team Haterade. They just have way more units, way more production. Their ability to constantly be recreating units is going to definitely pay off. You see a little bit of a split here in the army, trying to spread out. A little disorganized though from Crump. He's got a few too many units kind of scattered everywhere. Not sure if he's controlling both armies here, or if this is still a joint task force. We do see this roving pack of Lings, making sure that no expansions have gone down. All they will find is a few of Satch's Lings lingering about, but not really anything significant. And we do see the Zerg army moving up here on dropping loads. The Protoss army right behind it. Surprisingly, with so many Lings on the field, I guess he's elected not to go with any kind of Colossus. I guess a fairly decent decision, considering that he is up against Lings, and while it is pretty effective against Lings, I mean, he's got more than enough Zealots to take care of it as well, and the Roaches. Considering that there is air on the field, they are not aware yet of the Void Rays or of the carriers, so that of course will be a big surprise. We do see them just kind of chasing these Lings around. Obviously the army composition is now very apparent to Team Haterade. These Lings very throwaway at this point. These Overseers not as throwaway, but we do now see a ton of Ultralists built up here, and pretty much what else was he going to do with that money? I mean, he might as well just spend it big. Those Ultralists, of course, are going to shred through quite a bit of armored units. We also see a joint attack here of Lings attacking the main and expansion as these main armies finally engage here. You see these carriers going to town on these Corruptors. You'll start to see them drop. If he is not microing those Corruptors to attack each individual carrier, it's going to be very difficult, especially no corruption being thrown down either. And really, with this many carriers and interceptors, he's going to waste through everything. You see these, even these Ultralists having a very easy time. Not going to be as easy against these Zealots, but thankfully they do have tons of interceptors to help defend. And it looks like over at the satellite base here, everything's been taken care of with those Lings, but really this is where the main action was, and you just see this army of carriers shredding everything from the air. There is not enough anti-air to take them out. No DTs are going to save them. So this is really just a matter of time before they roll this army in and able to take out. And you see a little bit of an army rebuilding here, but Satch, once again, not enough anti-air to help out his teammate. No Hydralisks, no Infestors. Really just relying on these Corruptors here, which is a good choice against carriers. I mean, you want Corruptors, just you want like 10 times this amount. But especially against so many carriers here. And these carriers are very easily going to snipe this base here, forcing those Corruptors to engage solo with no Stalkers to back them up. Meanwhile, we do see this pack of Lings here, a handful of Corruptors and Ultralists, along with some very slow Overseers. Yeah, look at that, no speed upgrades. These moored Overseers just kind of floating around here. Dragging behind, just taking their sweet time to get over here. Hopefully they won't encounter any DTs. And here it goes, the attack. You see these Corruptors, of course, not too much for them to shoot at. Meanwhile, these Lings making quick work of these Stalkers, and simultaneously we see Diener rolling in on his half of the hate, just laying down the Haterade all over Satch's base. And there's one resignation, no GG. But I assure you that there are definitely some words being said between these teammates. Crump cannot be happy with how this went. Satch, of course, not happy either. And there's the victory. Ari and Diener taking an early lead in this best of three. Both of these teams, again, like I said, very hungry for a victory, and it could go either way. We'll have to see if Team DroppingLoads can pick this up. It'd be very devastating for either one of these teams to go down 2 games and basically just be winless in the season. It's still early on, but both teams is looking for some momentum. We'll have to see what happens in Game 2 coming right up.